Welcome, everyone. My name is Stella, and thank you for tuning in to Bibi and Yaya, where you will hear real-life stories every week, which people have sent to us, detailing their life experiences, feelings, emotions, and reactions along the way. Today's letter comes to us from Rebecca, a dear, sweet lady who cared for her husband who had Alzheimer's while battling cancer herself. Rebecca has a wonderful way of telling her story with positivity, even though she was fighting for her own life, yet still caring for and supporting her husband Charles through his difficult illness. What can we learn from Rebecca's story? Well, we will hear her story in just a moment. Before I begin, please note that the people who write into us share their stories in hopes of connecting with others who may be able to give advice, comments, and opinions, such as yourself. You may have just the right solution to today's personal life story. Here on Bibi and Yaya, we will also share our thoughts and opinions with the hopes that we can help those who share their stories with us. If you have a story to tell, please send us an email by using the email provided in the description box below. And by hitting the thumbs up button, sharing, and subscribing to this channel, you can stay up to date with these very personal stories. This helps us bring you new life stories and adventures every week, so you don't miss anything. And now, here's Rebecca's story. Stella, I am sending this letter as a widow. I have battled loneliness and hell after battling cancer during the lockdown after my husband's death due to Alzheimer's. I am Rebecca, 82 years old, and fought off cancer back in 2015 while my husband stood by me for support. But after his death in February 2020, I received even more devastating news. When I found lumps at the back of my head in early 2020, I had a feeling something was wrong, but at first, I brushed it off. I was busy caring for my husband Charles, who had been living with Alzheimer's for several years. Now, his health was rapidly declining. It started with little things like forgetting his keys or his wallet, but over time, he needed round-the-clock care. 5 years earlier, in 2015, my husband of 60 years had been my rock when I was first diagnosed with breast cancer. After noticing a strange-looking patch on my breast while we were on vacation, I went to the hospital for a checkup, which unfortunately confirmed my suspicions. I had 3 operations, including a mastectomy, and then had chemotherapy and radiation therapy. I was incredibly lucky, and the treatment I received was exceptional. Luckily, I was given the all clear after 6 months of treatment. Through it all, Charles took care of me, but now he was ill too. I insisted on caring for my husband without any help. I started feeling ill in January 2020. Everyone told me it was because I'd been caring for my husband, but I knew it was much more than that. I could tell the difference between grieving for him and he was still alive. But I was so ill and feeling physically unwell. Still stoic, I pushed my own health aside to make sure Charles was as comfortable as possible and canceled a hospital appointment to check what was going on with me. Sadly, Charles was moved into a hospice where he died 10 days later in February. His funeral was held on March 3rd in a large ceremony shortly before the first lockdown. Around the time Charles passed away, I went back to the hospital for more tests. Again, my instincts proved right when I was diagnosed with secondary breast cancer, which had spread to my spine and bones. I felt like I was in a dream. I wasn't allowed to have people in the hospital with me at the time, but luckily, my son managed to come in as my caregiver when I received the news. I am so lucky to have such a supportive family, with 2 sons and wonderful grandchildren. But while I went through grueling chemotherapy and radiation therapy to battle cancer once again, And while the lockdown was putting social restrictions on all of our lives, I began to feel isolated. Even with people around, you still feel lonely. It's hard to explain, but it's like even if you're in a crowd, you're still alone. Although I am close with my fantastic family, they have busy lives of their own, and I don't like to trouble them too much. I'm terrible at asking for help. While I was treated at the hospital, I found out about the telephone befriending and supportive listening service, which was set up by the cancer hospital during the lockdown. Patients are assessed by the adult psychological support team and then referred to the service before being matched up with volunteers who call every week to chat about anything and everything. So far, 17 volunteers have signed up, including some of the hospital's staff, and all have been specially trained in supportive listening. The project began in March and has funding to be able to run until December. After chatting with a volunteer called Lucy for 8 weeks, I was matched up with Jenny. It was lovely to speak to them from the very first phone call. We got along wonderfully and bonded instantly. I was telling them about my condition and what it's been like for me during these lockdowns, as well as giving them a background of my family life. They are so interesting and so very helpful. The service helps patients get things off their chest that they don't want to tell their family for fear of worrying them. This is why I'm also sending you this email to share with your YouTube channel's audience. I always enjoyed the chats. If anything, I think I like to talk too much. Since chatting with Jenny about my love of art and watercolors, I decided to get back into painting and art classes. And now life is finally getting back to normal. I am planning on returning to an Alzheimer's support club I used to go to with Charles. A lot of people keep going after their husbands or wives have passed away. They are lovely people. That was my story. I just wanted some listening ears. Thank you all for listening to my story. Share your comments of support with me, and I will make sure I read them all. I know that you get a lot of stories on your channel, so thank you in advance to Bibi and Yaya for reading my letter and sharing my story. And now for my thoughts. Rebecca is certainly the hero in her story. She fought life-threatening cancer twice herself while her dear husband was in the grips of Alzheimer's and sadly passed away. Rebecca fought courageously for her own life and still had the fortitude and great love and respect for her ailing husband Charles to care for him and his needs. I have an opinion regarding Rebecca's letter. Rebecca, it is okay to ask for help from your family and friends when you need it. They would certainly want to help you if they realize the amount of stress and fear you felt. And since you mentioned how wonderful your family is, even if they do lead busy lives, they would want to hear about your situation. They are there for you, as well as the support group filled with amazing people who take the time to volunteer and help people such as yourself. It must have been very emotional for you to battle cancer and care for your beloved husband Charles at the same time. Help is definitely available, and please ask for it from your family and friends. They love you and want and need you to be well. We all wish you only good health and a happy life. Thank you for sharing your life story with us, and never ever forget how important you are to your family and friends. All the best to you, sweet lady. So perhaps you may have a solution or good advice for Rebecca. If so, we would like to hear from you. And you can read other people's comments, solutions, and opinions below relating to this and other real-life situations. Remember that by liking and subscribing to Bibi and Yaya, you will hear me read letters every week which people send us about issues they are dealing with in their lives. These are real-life personal stories and people's everyday experiences. And don't forget, if you have a personal story or issue which you would like to share with us, please send us an email using the email provided in the description box below. We would be very happy to hear from you and offer any advice on how to deal or cope with your personal experience. We thank you for joining us today, here on Bibi and Yaya. See you next time.